Okay, let's take a look at my new plugin, Basscleft's Easy Stereo. I'm really excited to show you this because it's been working out so well. I've been looking for a plugin like this for a long time. Couldn't really find one, and there's a lot of bad methods out there, so I made my own. Let's jump straight into some examples. Here's a mono bass. And let's add in some of my stereo effect. Now here's where it gets special. When we put it into mono, it folds down completely flat. Like you get the same mono sound back again. If I turn my effect on or off, in mono it makes no difference. So this is super helpful to making sure your mix translates from stereo to mono. Let's talk a little bit more about it. There's actually 4 different types of stereo in here, and all 4 of them will fold down to mono perfectly. There's the magic one, the spectral one, 2 types of mod as well. Let's go through them all. So you heard the magic one already. You can actually adjust the size of it. It's kind of a delay focus thing. For vocals and pads, this is going to work out real well because it lets you kind of give it a bit more size like this.
Losing myself, I'm losing myself, I'm losing myself.
But you might not want to use such a long size on things like hi-hats. It'll get a little echoey. But if you tighten it up, you can have stereo hats, stereo anything transient like that, and you can still mono it down, no problems. All right, let's take a look at the next one. These 2 on the top row, the magic and the spectral, they're both pretty static. They don't fluctuate and move around a lot, whereas the other ones, mod and mod 2, they do move a bit. So we have another static one, the spectral one. I think you find this real handy. Let's try that on the bass again. Now this is bipolar too, so as you push it to the right, you're going to get one version of the effect and you get the inversion of it in the other way. So it kind of moves frequencies around your head and lets you dial in your stereo sounds and customize it to fit your mix. And you can further customize it with the spectral position. And we could try that in mono. Again, no problems there at all. All right, let's look at some of the movement ones. Actually, you know what, before we do, let's do something tricky with the spectral one. Let's play a saw wave. This is traditionally really hard to put a stereo effect on this without getting it blurry, mushy, and lose its edge, but the spectral one can pull it off. Nice strong stereo, put it into mono. No phase problems at all. You can get a bit of blur with the others on the Such a Sharp Sound if you want. But then that will show up in the stereo but not in the mono. So I suggest if you can use a very clean type sound like a low saw like that, spectral is probably going to be best. But you can customize it, do whatever you want. Let's look at the other 2 types, mod 1 and mod 2. Maybe we'll go back to the bass sound, or maybe even on the vocal.
Losing myself.
Start, this first one is a little bit like a doubler chorus type thing.
Losing myself, I'm losing myself.
Nice and wide, but again,
Losing myself, I'm losing myself.
we don't get any mushy, phasey chorus business when we fold it down to mono. We just get the good bit we want in stereo. Mod 2 is sort of pitch-based. Let me show you this one. This one has a bit of side-to-side movement for a bit of vibe.
Losing myself, I'm losing myself, I'm losing myself.
But again, folds down to mono perfectly. Now these have a special knob that let them talk to each other. Mod 1 and mod 2 can be both pushed up at the same time, and you can use mod spread. You can think of this like these extra voices we're adding in. Imagine like a small choir group of people singing, and the spread knob is spreading them apart, all the voices.
Losing myself, I'm losing myself, I'm losing myself, I'm losing myself.
Almost a bit of a slap delay style effect. And again,
Losing myself, I'm losing myself, I'm losing.
completely falls down to mono. And all these sounds I'm piping into, by the way, are completely mono to begin with. It will work on stereo sounds too, but I just want to show you how dramatically you can make something stereo with this from a completely mono sound. What else can I show? I think It works best with a little bit of everything. So let's dial in a setting like that.
Losing myself, I'm 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 losing myself.
So nice and wide, but still all folding down to mono, even with all of them running together. One more cool option here at the very end is width. You can actually tame everything. So if you've made your favorite setting, you can just wind this back and minimize it back all the way down to mono like this.
Losing myself, I'm losing myself, I'm losing myself.
Now this can be fun because you could automate this during your song. So you have moments where your sound jumps out wider or comes back nice and easily. You don't have to adjust all of them. And you can also use it to narrow sounds because although we do like some of our sound to be super wide in stereo, it's also times there's going to pop up when you want it to be just halfway, especially if you're going to pan it. Like for instance, if we had this on the Vox synth over here and we panned it just without this plugin running, it's really easy to localize where that sound is and picture in your mind where that sound is off to the side without stereo enhancement. But as soon as you put stereo enhancement on it, you can hear it kind of bleeding out to the sides and spreading everywhere. It's not as focused anymore. So this has been a problem before with stereo enhancing things because you just end up with this mush of stereo stuff everywhere. But now if you want to pan something but you want a little width on it, you can just reduce it. So we could go from nothing and we'll just add in a little. And it's going to keep all of that extra sound focused in that one area of the mix so you can maintain your separation and clarity in your mix down. So there you go. As you know, like a bunch of the other, and especially if you've seen my other videos where we talk about the problems with Haas effect, chorus, frequency shifter, duplicating and detune, and all the mid-side problems you can have as well. A lot of those techniques that they talk about on YouTube do terrible things to your music in mono. If you haven't seen the video, you can check that out on YouTube where I explain in more detail all the problems they cause and what they sound like and how to look out for them. Or just grab Easy Stereo and it sorts it all out for you. You can make your stuff as wide as you want and you're never gonna have those folding down to mono problems.